My name is Christian Basel. Years ago, I had an idea. I got myself a TARDIS. Took it to new places, met a lot of new people, took some great pictures, and talked Doctor Who. From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hanging With Web show, this is the legend of the Traveling Tardis. Join me on my latest adventures and become part of the legend. Hello, fellow Whovians. Welcome to another edition of The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. My name is Christian Basel, and I am the host of this show. And I'm doing an episode that I never thought I would be doing because it's the elephant on the planet now. Instead of the elephant in the room, it's all over the place. And it has affected the geek world in every... Well, I don't express it just to the geek world, but it's affected everybody, everyone. But geekdom has just been hit as hard. I've been watching friends just on the internet, people who run comic book stores. They're in dire straits. They don't even know if they're going to be at the end of this. And I know there have been so many things happening. I mean, not just comic book stores, but people around the world. Do they have jobs? Where is their income coming from? When is this all going to be over? Everybody's getting stir crazy, and everybody's doing their best, like we are, online to bring you this show. And we want to continue bringing this show, but I think we put this episode together because we wanted to give you something different from the other shows as far as that elephant in the room, what we call the coronavirus, which is all over the planet. But there are so many shows on YouTube out there right now explaining the coronavirus, but we wanted to give you a different take on our show today. We wanted to give you the experiences that we've had, just because this virus is out there. But to help me out to do this, first of all, let me introduce our panelists. First of all, I have, from the UK himself, best blue man I've ever met, Mr. Simon Fisher Becker, actor. How you doing there, Simon?
Oh, tickety-boo, considering the situation.
Exactly.
But I haven't yet got a cough, and I haven't yet got a fever, so I can bounce around my house like a bumper car. And we just this week, everybody's using the term. No, everybody's not using the term lockdown, but it is as close as it could be.
Yeah. I just feel like every introvert has had their dream come true this week. It's like, if you're an introvert, you're just going like, nothing's changed. This is exactly what I wanted.
We'll discuss.
Exactly.
We'll discuss things later. But for me personally, I think things haven't changed that much, other than a sudden severance of the income stream.
Yeah, I think everybody's feeling the pinch. I know in my own family, we're feeling the pinch as well there. Speaking of feeling the pinch, because I have a lousiest segue ever, hello, Mackenzie Flohr.
Hey!
Author Mackenzie Flohr of The Rite of One. She's here to join us, and she's going to give us a little bit of an experience that she had with the coronavirus there. Mackenzie, how are you doing? How are you holding up?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Well, the way it's working right now is that my other half works in the front line, so we've gotten a lot of experience within the last 24 hours. Michigan has gone into the hotspot of number 4 in the nation, and the way things are going, I have a bad feeling we're going to be caught up to Washington by the end of the week. It's just, there's been lots of problems, which I can tell all that behind-the-scenes stuff.
And joining us to bring up more of the facts versus the myth about this virus, we have the lovely geek mom herself. We have Neisha Mulchan, who is I'm going to bop this line, I keep on saying it wrong, nurse practitioner. She's also one of our fellow panelists and nurse practitioner. And speaking of the front lines, Neisha is definitely working on the front lines. How you holding up, Neisha? I know you've been busy.
Yes, and every day it's I'm looking at my consult sheet. What the number of cases I had to do triages for. I'm a family practice and neuropsychiatry nurse practitioner, but first and foremost, family practice. And I work in a pretty high risk community of patients. So I'm fine, actually. I'm fine. There's a lot of nuances to being on the other side of on both sides. Let's just put it that way. So we can talk about it today. I would love to share some of it so people can get an idea as to, I think, coping strategies, and methods for us to be able to work through the fluid nature of change.
Okay. And also we have Melanie Dean. Now, anyway, the lovely Melanie Dean, our director of the show. She is so wonderful, so talented artist, Melanie Dean. And what's been wonderful is we had a interesting show last week. That's a bad term. We had a wonderful show last week. We just basically talked, and Melanie had just come back from the UK. She has a different perspective too about the coronavirus, which we mentioned on the previous show there. How are you doing, Melanie?
Oh, I'm doing good. Like we had said on the previous show, I can't remember what all I said, so I'll probably keep it simple, quiet here, so I don't regurgitate. But maybe later on, if we have time. No, my perspective was somebody who traveled to the UK, had a great vacation, and then it just started getting blowing up, and then had to get back home as the methods of coming into the country were kind of getting closed down. I'm now one of those people who had to self-quarantine. I'm one of the people who had to, we were kind of checking our temperatures going all the way through, me and everybody else, just to keep an eye on everyone. So we've been on lockdown. We've been kind of, and nothing that my state or anyone said that we had to do, but it was just the smart thing to do. And even my mom, she's 74. She traveled with us too. Didn't have to do anything, but it was the smart thing to do, just to protect herself and to protect anybody else. God forbid, we got that Italian blood. We're awesome. We're great. It's just, just being crazy. But you never know what's going to be attached to you. So you have to kind of go through this thinking, it's not about me, but what I can accidentally give to you. So, exactly. that's there's my perspective. I'll shut up now.
No, that's funny. And I think I mentioned on the last show, here's the interesting thing about this. It didn't even hit me. It didn't hit me until the day that I went to Aldi's, and I think it was just within a little over a week. I went to Aldi's, and you saw what finally you saw in other people's Facebook postings on that, the empty shelves. There were a couple of women walking around with the mask, and I'm like, wow, this is The Walking Dead without the fun of the zombies walking around, going around tearing us. I was just like, the shelves were empty of the weird stuff. We were talking earlier about Melanie and I on the last episode, the things that they were buying, like toilet paper and water. And I'm just like, we're not going through a hurricane. That stuff will still be around. And people were just, we made we were comedically making the suggestion. It's like, if you run out of toilet paper, there is the shower next door. We still have running water. And I didn't want to go into the details about that. And also, the water will still be running. It might be as tasty because you're getting it from the tap, but we're still having water. So some of the stuff that was being sold out, I think I saw the meats were gone. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. I mean, everybody wants to have a nice dinner, and they don't know when they're going to be going out again. Totally understood that. Just some weird, they would have the pasta sauce would still be there, but the pasta is gone. I'm just like, what?
I honestly think it's just when people were told to stay in place and to shelter in place, everyone kind of went into their disaster preparedness which their natural disasters in their region are used to buying. So Floridians were in hurricane mode. We need water.
Exactly.
We're fine with water. We need water. Okay, sure. The toilet paper thing, I like to blame Australia for because I saw those memes first coming from there. But I think that really was what the beginning of the panic buying was people were just kind of going into, I know people from Jersey, they were buying like they were going to be stuck in a snowstorm. That's what they were prepared for. But now I think it's just people are not used to having to shop once a week. Uh-huh. I think we're very used to going, I got to make my Target run. I got to run to the store. I don't think people really plan their meals out at a week at a time. And I think that's where you're seeing such, little empty shelves.
Yeah, I got the warning signals that came up earlier, and they said, you know what, if you whatever you buy, just buy a little bit more, just in case. There, but I mean, I went to the Aldi's, and I'm going to take this. I'm going to let people know. I said this is my idea. I'm going to trademark this. But ideas for if I was shopping at Aldi's and I was making dinner that night, I would have to create lasagna made from Skittles and Spam. I mean, this is just the wackiness. It's just like, what? Why is this still on the shelf? You know, even the ramen noodles were still there, and I was like, that should have been the first to go. Just like instant kid meal right there when I was a Boy Scout. Ramen noodles, but they were still on the shelf. Some just wacky stuff in combinations that just didn't make sense together. But if you ever start something, you know, you go to a grocery store. Somebody should start a YouTube channel where they're making stuff from stuff that's still left on the shelf and make it something edible. It's just like, well,
I think you're going to see a lot more casseroles again.
Exactly.
Because honestly, think back to like World War II 50s rationing thing. You had a lot of
Exactly.
tomato pies. You had whatever food you need to, put together. So I'm thinking you're going to see a lot of casseroles. Hopefully we don't see that whole Jell-O thing. It's like, look, you too could put your elbow macaroni, some ham, and Jell-O. Oh God, please no. I would like to us not see that trend.
That's just not okay.
Oh, Neisha, I've got cookbooks to show you.
A lot.
50s America was strange.
Yeah, I just can't get over the reality. The next reality, the price of gas went down. Holy cow! Price that I would never even think about.
Yes.
No.
I'm taking trips.
We're
Simon,
not allowed.
How much is it in the UK?
Well, fuel varies, but this week it's gone. There is a station near us that it's £1.09 a litre.
That's it.
Yeah, £1.09. Whereas its average more recently has sort of been 1.20, so it suddenly dropped. Yeah. So that was a surprising, but it's dropped down to £1.09, and we're now being discouraged to travel. So we won't be able to take advantage of it.
For me, the second I saw the prices here start going lower, anytime I'm filling my tank up. I'm just filling it up just so I can have it. My husband went out to the shed, grabbed all the little gallon jugs for our lawnmowers, and filled them up.
Yes. I have to, picking up on some of the things you've already said, this whole toilet roll thing, I just find bizarre. And I saw it. I went to my local supermarket, and there were people coming out with 2 trolleys filled 6 or 7 feet high each. And I'm thinking, the one thing they forgot to buy is food. So,
true. So you gotta that.
Toilet lasagna.
I think what's going to happen. Yeah, I think what's going to end up, it's going to be a toilet roll risol, and so it'll be self-cleaning when it gets through the system. It's just so bizarre. And then I suddenly noticed there were no eggs and no bread. I don't know.
Yeah. No here eggs, too. Eggs starting to go away.
No bread, and then one time, no fresh meat at all. Because we sort of made a list of what we might eat over the next sort of 7 days, and of course we do tend to go for things like a bolognese or a stew and things. And there was no chickens. There was no chicken at all. There was there were four pre-basted chickens only that would normally have 70 or 80 on show all the time. So it's been funny. It's got a bit better now. I think what it is, there was this initial, we must get food and stuff in, and now people have got things. I think they're just doing top-up stuff now. But I have seen people take stuff out of elderly people's trolleys.
No. Oh my God.
So and that I was a bit disappointed about. But on the other side of the coin, I've witnessed and also taken part in incredible kindness. So there we go.
Well, speaking of which, we're on a hard break. When we return, we're going to be talking about more about the C word, the coronavirus. When we come back, please stay logged on, stay tuned in, keep yourselves safe, and always become part of the legend.
It's Germany, 1938. Charlotte is a 15-year-old girl living in the Jewish quarter. George lives in the city proper and enamored by Charlotte's charm and grace when she wanders into his cobbler shop. George decides right then and there that he is going to marry her. Follow along as this unlikely couple struggles to stay one step ahead of the Gestapo and their dramatic escape from Nazi Germany. Good Things Always Happen in Springtime, from author Joanne Fisher, on Amazon.com today.
Alien invaders enslave Earth,
Unleashing hunters into the ruined wastes.
one young survivor struggles to elude their monsters, clinging to hope.
When he's stolen off the planet by a sarcastic starship AI, they pit their uneasy alliance against a treacherous galaxy.
Explore a whole new verse of barbarism and betrayal
Wonder and Adventure
in the Scion series,
by Michael J. Allen.
beginning with Book 1, Scion Conquered Earth.
Available in print, ebook, and audio on Amazon.com.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Legend of Traveling Tardis. My name is Christian Basel. I'm here with author Mackenzie Flohr, actor Simon Fisher Becker. Also, we have our nurse practitioner and fellow panelist, the lovely geek mom, Neisha Mulchan, and our wonderful and lovely director and artist, I should say, because if you're looking at the YouTube channel, you can see all the magnificent art in the background. We have Melanie Dean there for. What's that?
For sale.
All the art's for sale. Everybody on YouTube, take a look and check it out there. Also, check her out on our Facebook page. Now, we just want to make sure one thing. This show is going to be slightly different from the other shows. There's a lot of facts, non-facts, myths, everything about the show. And we just want to let you know, first of all, this show is not going to be one of those shows where we're going to be giving you prescriptions either. This is not to, for a better term, it's not to treat any symptoms. If you have any of these symptoms that you've been seeing on the news, please go seek medical help. And if you do have these symptoms, if you do have corona, even if you have any kind of illness, please stay at home, try to recover, take whatever you need to do to get better. But again, this is just an entertainment show. We wanted to bring you this episode because there's a lot of perspectives from around the world. As you can see, we're going to have Mackenzie talk about her situation. We're going to have Simon talk about his situation, and Melanie a little bit about the UK, and some perspective from me. But speaking of perspective, we do want to get into a little bit of the facts about this disease there. So we brought on fellow panelist Neisha Mulchan. Again, she is a nurse practitioner. And one of the things I've been wanting to ask about this, Neisha, starting off, is where did this thing come from? How is it here? Why did my world change overnight? I know there's 3 questions involved there, but you can break it down however you want to let people know how is this all happening.
Hi, guys. Sometime in December, end of December, in the province of Wuhan, China, towards the end of December, the premise is that there was a mutation of a particular virus strain that has caused lots of trouble in the world in the past, under the name of MERS and SARS. And in Wuhan, China, I won't go into the details of it. So let's start with one thing. There's an entire panel of viruses called the coronaviruses. So when we use the title coronavirus, we could be referencing a number of them. In the past, the 2 that have affected us the most were the SARS virus and the MERS virus. You guys know those 2, right? And the MERS virus. So this is a brand new mutation of the coronavirus, which is a common virus to actually have and can cause all kinds of heck if you catch it.
Yeah.
But in Wuhan, China, towards the end of December, going into December 31st, this mutation created this new virus in this one gentleman, is who they found, an elderly gentleman. And from there, because they were celebrating the new year, hordes of people in Wuhan, China were infected, not realizing that this brand new strain was being passed through respiratory droplet. Because while everybody's happy, They're going to be yelling, they might be singing, they might be sharing drinks, and they might be coughing because things happen. And basically, that's how the simplest way of saying how it originated in Wuhan, China, where it rapidly spread like this. From December 31st, the world changed. So technically, we entered 2020 with this virus already existing. At the time when they were able to isolate it and test with the first set of and I'm scientific, right? So I'm going to be honest with you guys. So when they did the first set of testing on those who had expired or in the first group of thousands who had gotten it, they were able to figure out that it was a coronavirus strain, and at that time named it SARS-CoV-2, which is the official name. So we call it COVID-19 because it's coronavirus identified 2019. So that's how
okay.
Yeah, but technically it's called SARS-CoV-2. That's what we call it in the science world.
I thought we got lucky. We got 1 through 18, and here's the 19th one, and this is the lucky one that just got into the world. So,
Yep.
Okay, so the 19 represents the year that it was discovered. Okay, cool. So what does this strand have the difference between what we know out in the world right now, like the common cold and the flu? What makes this one just harsher than everybody else out there?
Well, all of them are infectious diseases.
Uh-huh.
They're all in the strain, but the rest of them, we actually know the biologics of the transcription process, right? How long is it going to last and what's going to kill it, right? We actually know those things. Hey, I mean, let's talk about death of the virus, death to the virus. So basically, the problem when you have a brand new strain like this with such a rapid spread and through, we think, more than one medium, how do you kill it? Because it takes a heck of a long time to get behind the science of figuring out how you're spreading it, which they're only now getting really their hands and their grips on. And then you can figure out how to attenuate it, and then how to contain it, and then mitigation, right? That's why we are at this point, actually. So, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Well, the hardest part about this particular strand is because it can take up to 2 weeks. It doesn't have to be an overnight success, and by that time you're carrying it around, you've already done the what I call, what was it, the remember those businesses that had that chain, that business pyramid where one person would buy something then sell it to 5 other people. So we know that it takes up to 2 weeks over here. What are the signs for people who might be looking out for themselves and like, okay, I think I might have this? What would be the signature signs for this?
Okay, so there's quite a few actually, and I will tell you that the signature signs get updated on the CDC and the World Health Organization website on a regular basis, because what we started out knowing like 5 or 6 weeks ago, I'm going to say to you, remember we're in March, we've been dealing with this now since January, but most of us didn't know we were dealing with it until 7 weeks ago, kind of thing, right? And if you think about what you're seeing today, 7 weeks, that's all it's been. And we are at 425,000 known cases in the world. That's crazy business. So there's a couple of things to understand about it. So I'm going to tell you the most common symptoms, but also understand it's different based on the person, because presentation is based on all 5 of us here have 5 completely different bodies, right? And we have completely different sets of chronic conditions. Yeah. So our symptoms could be an overlapping of other viruses and other chronic conditions. Does that make sense? So I want everyone to understand this is a completely individualized process. Mm-hmm. So, and this thing mimics a lot of other things, because remember, there are other coronaviruses out there. So you can have that one, but not this one. So the number one symptoms that you're going to be looking for, of course, which has been a very common factor, has been that fever. I'm telling you, that 100.4 and above sustained or recurring fever is an absolute. And also
100.4. Dang.
And above, on and off.
And above.
What's that? Do you happen to know that in Celsius?
Sure. I will give you that in 1 second. I actually do have it. I had to do
we
it
have a
with
couple friends in the UK that are listening. So.
Somebody in
it's
our,
just like
in our panel.
104. I'm a wimp when I get, if it gets 100. I'm like 104. I'm cooking eggs on my head. It's just like,
well,
no. So it should be 38.
Yes.
So that's the number we've been going with most often that we want to look for, because that's a real fever. For some people, it's 100.6. So I also look for the 100.6. Anything in that window for me as a provider, like we said, go based on your patient. Please understand this. I'm trying to be very clear about this, and I'll tell you in a moment why. We're looking for a sustained fever for that patient. Remember that in an immune compromised person, fevers are a completely different thing. Many immune compromised people, because they have a suppressed immune system in response, and we don't know we're sick, because I'm immune compromised, just so everyone understands. I have a form of lupus, so I live with this stuff too. Our fevers are completely different. So 100 fever for me is like 103 for someone else. So just to get that under your, right. Then you're going to be having that dry cough. It really is. It's like almost like a barking cough. You guys kind of get what I'm saying with that?
Yeah.
But it's like a sustained barking cough. A lot of the patients can't hold their breath more than 5 seconds without that spasm and that cough. So I tend to test that anyway. That's just kind of something I like to do, especially if they're asthmatic. I want to see if they can, what kind of inspiratory effort they have. So you're not as likely to have the runny nose type of thing, and sneezing. Those are allergy symptoms. Those are not things you tend to have with this. But so you're going to look for the cough, you're going to look for the fever. But I will tell you, one of the things you're going to find, fatigue. It is fatigue like something you've not known before. It's crazy. And that
so I'll definitely never know about this virus. I've got it at first.
That 14 days.
I'm always tired.
You're talking about 14 days. Yeah. Just understand that's just the mean average.
Right.
Remember, we're still at the beginning, so it could be 5 days, it could be 17 days.
It's different for other people, but depending upon the reaction, and then, like you said, you have a condition that it exacerbates what's going on in there on the worst conditions, and some people could probably have it within a couple days and be smacked around because of their immune system.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. That shortness of breath, though, yeah.
I was going to ask, is this something where it, because of the whole upper respiratory, I might be getting ahead of it, that you have to keep an eye on people's oxygen levels once you know that they're somebody that's
so all of those people we absolutely do keep in like the patients we tested today. One of the first things you're going to do is check the pulse oxygen saturation on the little finger, and you're looking to see for dips, because with the worst of it, well, let's just say with the moderate moving up the chain in terms of severity, you're going to have a difficult time taking a full breath, because the science behind it basically is that the people who are most at risk are the asthmatic, COPD patients with chronic fibrotic lungs, any type of inflammatory process in the lungs where it's difficult already in an average day, and we're just remember, guys, we're in allergy season.
Yeah.
And you know how
tell me about it. Yeah, you tell me about this.
That on top of it. So the oxygen saturation is about us understanding. So we're looking for things like trouble breathing, persistent pain or pressure in the chest is a huge sign. And I'm going to tell you, it's here. But also understand it's here around the side, because you know why? That cough is not a full cough. So you're bringing it in a lot of times. So it creates this chest wall pressure. So it's thoracic, what we call a pleuritic pain. You ever heard of the word pleurisy, guys? You ever heard the term pleurisy? It's an old term for a form of pneumonia because of the inflammation around the lining of the lungs. So it's something like that. Yep.
We got a minute left before commercial break. Neisha, are there any myths that you're going like, I need to make sure that people know this about coronavirus? Is there a myth that maybe that you want to address that people have heard, because there's so much information out there, and a lot of it's misinformation. And a lot of it's just because we just can't nail this down specifically. It is a new strand that nobody, it's a new thing. Is there something that you want people to know about that they should be aware of that is a misinformation about coronavirus?
I see a lot of little, those little tickler charts you guys are seeing going out everywhere. Don't pay attention to those. Pay attention to your medical provider. They're so generic in terms of allergies are like this, cold is like this, coronavirus like this. Well, yeah, no, because it's, again, specific to Melanie, Christian, Simon, and Mackenzie. Different people, different presentations. This is what we need to understand. And those symptoms I told you are the main ones. So if you have, excessive allergies with sneezing and a runny nose, but you have you feel feverish, does that mean you have COVID-19 or that you should be tested? More than likely not. Not unless what happened. Not unless you were in direct contact with someone who was exposed. We need to understand that that's our number one question we're going to ask you. And people need to understand that. Although 2 weeks ago, when they used to say, only if they travel from these places, that doesn't exist now. It's now travel. So for instance, Melanie was a risk factor to everybody because she traveled. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But she was in an unpredictable environment. So I want people to understand that particular factor as well. That, and be very careful what you're ingesting. And one of the number one things I want to tell you guys is some people went out in the media and said, hey, go ahead and take Plaquenil. Why not give Plaquenil to people? Because, it's an investigational drug to cure the COVID virus. And what do people do who have access to it? They used it and people have already died. Don't do that. Jay, we tell you.
Not until we tested it first there. Speaking of things that are being tested, folks, we're going to a commercial break. When we return, we're going to be talking more about the coronavirus. We're going to continue our story with Mackenzie Flohr, author, and somebody who may have had it. But we'll find out when we return. Please stay logged on, stay tuned, and be safe, and continue to become part of the legend.
Now on Amazon.com, iCoin from author Jeremy Mosby. It's an alternate reality, and the leader of the planet iCoin is none other than Benjamin Franklin. When corrupt officials threaten not only iCoin but the Earth as well, an unlikely chosen one, Jeremy, must face dark foes to save the Earth and iCoin alike. Author Jeremy Mosby takes readers on a superhero's adventure through this compelling and imaginative alternate universe. Get iCoin on Amazon.com today.
Jackie Sonnenberg's My Soul to Keep is a ghost story rooted in the realities of actual cults. When 13-year-old Sky Monroe arrives at her new boarding school, all she can think about is death and connecting with the afterlife. Soon she discovers her school's spirituality group, the Guardians of Light, and they have a secret. They can speak with the dead, and the organization is a cult. But this isn't Sky's only problem. The campus house where Sky resides is haunted, and even the ghosts have an agenda. They intend on getting the souls they want. Filled with mystery and intrigue plucked straight from the headlines, author Jackie Sonnenberg's research and attention to detail give this ghost story an even more eerie atmosphere. Find My Soul to Keep on Amazon.com today.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. My name is Christian Basel. I am the host. We are here with the lovely artist, Melanie Dean. We're here with Neisha Mulchan, Geek Mom. We are here with Mackenzie Flohr, the author of The Rite of Wands, and we're here with actor Simon Fisher Becker. But we're going to turn the story over right now to Mackenzie Flohr. And I just want to remind everybody, please, this is not to be an episode where to diagnose or treat your symptoms. Please, if you ever feel that you are sick, please always go and get checked up, get it treated out, and make sure that if you do have the symptoms or you do have the virus itself, please quarantine yourself at home, protect others, protect yourself, so we can get through this fast. But we're going to be returning back to Mackenzie Flohr, who may have had the disease, but I'm going to let her tell the story. Oops, hang on a second.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I myself did not personally have the virus, but my spouse, we're pretty sure did at this point. And it was two different occurrences. Originally, in the state of Michigan, unfortunately, when it comes to testing, the testing are pretty much unless you are needing to be on a ventilator. It's been very difficult to get any tests, and they're just now finally getting it. This week they finally got into regular doctors' offices. So now we're seeing that our numbers, we're now fourth in the nation for the most cases, and I know that that's not all of them. There's a lot more out there that have not been diagnosed simply for that. But in my case, there was two different incidences.
We're third in the world, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. In my case, I did a Comic-Con back in the end of February that was in Macomb County. And it turns out that Macomb County was leading at one point with the amount of positive cases. And exactly 14 days from when we did Comic-Con, my wife ended up coming down with originally came down with a cough and then had a fever, though it was a low grade. It never went up to the 104. It was more like 99 to 100. But for her, like Neisha was talking about, everyone's individual. For her, 100 is really like 103, 104 for her. So she also has chronic fatigue, so she's always tired anyway. So it's really hard to really say that she had it. But she also works in the front line at the hospitals. And unfortunately in Michigan, there are not the masks that are needed. There's not the equipment that's needed. The hospital specifically that she works at is at overcapacity right now with the coronavirus. Originally, we were told that there was a patient possibly that could have it, but it was not actually confirmed at that time. So the two of us went into quarantine, self-quarantine, and then we found out that that particular patient had not had a positive case. But then we came down with, a week later, we came down with the situation where we counted back to the Comic-Con. So it's kind of like our story is kind of wibbly wobbly here. We're talking about where did we go? What did we do? What were the symptoms? But because she works in the front line, get a nice perspective. In Michigan, they advise you to go through your doctor. We never got through to our doctor. We'd call and it'd be like, oh, call back this time. You call back at that certain time and say, oh, the office is closed. So the next thing is to go to the CBC number, call it, and it would just hang up. It would automatically never tell you what the queue was. It would just say, we're over capacity, call back later, and actually hang up. So we never actually even got to say she had confirmed case, other than we know that she had the cough, she had the fever, she had both of those, and had the fatigue. But other than that, we still can't say that it was a confirmed case because we never actually could get that access to a doctor or a test. And thankfully, she did not have to go into being a patient having to be ventilated. So that was the reason why she never even had to get the test or had access to the test. So now we're just kind of, in my case, I'm counting to see, well, let's see if I match with those symptoms. And that was now, I'm on day 7, I believe now. So still I have another 7 days to go to see for sure if something ends up happening. It's been crazy. It really has been crazy.
So when you thought you had the disease, first of all, you didn't have it eventually, right?
Yeah, I have not come down with the symptoms yet as of now. I know of other people who have had positive cases, so I can kind of compare what I observed with her versus what happened with them, and it was very similar. So it very could have all been that she did.
Right.
Can't say for sure that she actually did or didn't.
Thank goodness too on that one. But
just a quick note: the brand test that's going to be coming out is going to be the longevity study, so she can be tested, and we'll be able to find out if her exposure. Just so you know,
which is good. Yeah, because we were talking about that today, because she said, I might have the antibodies. I go, well, we got to test you to find out for sure if you do, because I said, I hope for your sake you did, because she ends up, in her case, she's immunocompromised. She's in the older age grade, and she's got asthma. So if she didn't have coronavirus, now I'm more concerned because of the situation at her work where they're being told literally, unless they're in the room with a COVID patient, they're being told, take off your mask, take off your equipment, don't walk with it in the halls, don't
Yeah.
6-foot space. You don't need that.
Actually, Neisha, would you have some intel on that kind of questioning? Because consider you work from that side.
So basically, it's up to your facility to follow. There are 3 sets of guidances. Basically, there's World Health Organization here that created things. Okay? So basically, they can tell us to use. See this guy? I have mine. This is my N95 mask that I would be using when I go in the world. Every one of us is supposed to have one. But guess what the problem is? And here's our other regular paper mask. So what happened was hospital systems, unfortunately, didn't have access to the products. And because at one specific time, they did it. Like I said, this news is changing all the time. The science is changing all the time. So basically what we're trying to do is tell people, follow the guidances of your facility. If they're telling you to do something that's unsafe, reach out to your local health department and talk to them. And do what's safest for you, because it's your life, right? It's your life. So here at our facility, we've had to figure out ways to make sure that we have the longevity of our equipment, because guess what, guys? There was a run on equipment. People went out there and bought them all. That's what it is. It's really rough out here for the medical facilities and for the professionals. You guys do. When they talk about there being a shortage, guess what? That's true. Shortage of equipment throughout the world.
Mackenzie, we got a few minutes left. I think I really want to probe down into your thought process at the moment that you thought that this was happening. What was going through your mind? And because we got a few minutes left, what would you tell yourself today, knowing that you didn't have this, how you would have handled the situation differently had things gone on, when you first started? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does totally make sense, because I actually had this conversation with my family. I'm walking into this whole entire pandemic, instead of being worried and wondering what's going to happen, I'm more looking at it as treating it as one day at a time, whereas I feel there's no really point in getting all worked up, because it's not going to help anything. We're all in this together. It is what it is. It's just, we got to get through it, and we will, God willing that we all will. But in case we don't, in case when we thought that she had the virus, of course I was concerned, and I would prefer, if it was either of us were to get it, if she did not have it, I would prefer it for myself that I get it, because I have the stronger immune system. But now I'm learning that it doesn't even matter if you're younger. There is a patient that is younger than myself by, I would say, about 10 years, had absolutely a perfect health and had no other issues, and has passed away. And
I'm sorry.
And it just went that quick. We don't realize, for those talking about people that are in the 20 to 30, 35 age range, you guys don't really realize how easy it is to catch this virus and to spread it. You could be feeling fine. Let's say it's 8 o'clock in the morning, you feel fine, and by 1 o'clock you're having to have a ventilator. It's that fast. You go down that fast, and it's just, I didn't realize that myself, that it was really that much. What kind of helped me for perspective was actually watching, of all things, on Netflix, there's a show called Containment, and I was watching that, where it has a similarity in the way it starts and the way it spreads. And I needed to watch that, because I'm a big picture thinker. So I need to understand everything really before I understand the little tiny thing. Plus also because in the Rite of Wands, ironically, my main character is a doctor in the medieval times. So a lot of people have been asking me, how would the main character, Mirta, how would he have handled, say, the coronavirus during his time versus how we're handling here? And it's so drastically different. So drastically.
Mackenzie, we're on a hard break, but when we return, we're going to be continuing our talk, and we're going to bring Simon Fisher Becker involved. We talked about the myths and the facts. We've talked about the experiences. Now we're going to talk about the livelihood. When we return to the legend of the Traveling Tardis, stay logged on, stay tuned in. Please be safe, take care of yourself, and continue to become part of the legend.
Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish.
Santa, if there's one thing I want for Christmas more than anything, it's someone to spend Christmas with. Someone who really wants me to be there.
Head to the mountains of East Tennessee with romance author Jenna Hart for a Christmas writer's workshop. Since her mother passed after a long illness, Jenna has had one wish. She doesn't want to spend Christmas alone. Meeting Niccolo Maldini, cover model and actor, could make more than Jenna's Christmas wish come true. Unless Ember, Niccolo's ex-girlfriend, does something crazy to stop them from being together. It's a mountain Christmas romance you won't want to miss in Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish. Now on Amazon.com.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to The Legend of the Traveling Tardis. My name is Christian Basel, the host of the show. I'm here with the lovely Melanie Dean. I'm here with the lovely Mackenzie Flohr. I'm here with the lovely Neisha Mulchan. I'm here with the lovely Simon Fisher Becker. Everybody's lovely tonight there. And I just had one question to wrap up what you were talking about earlier, Mackenzie. So for somebody who might be going through the process, I just wanted to pick up, take it one day at a time. Take it easy, don't get too excited. I mean, it's like catching anything as far as thinking about what could happen and may not even be happening, but still take it one day at a time, take care of yourself, and just go with the punches and, go see a doctor, please, or go see, do what you need to do to take care of yourself at the moment there. It will all work itself out in the end. Speaking of things that work out in the end there, Simon, we've had a lot of people around the world, and I know the entertainment industry was the biggest one to take a big sucker punch to the stomach about losing their jobs or people not finding work. And I saw friends who work at Disney, Universal, all the theme parks. I mean, they don't even know if they have a job tomorrow, let alone 2 weeks from now or whenever the theme parks open. But being an actor yourself, I know that you've had some issues trying to find work. How is the livelihood as far as somebody who works in the entertainment industry being affected by the coronavirus?
It's not just the entertainment industry, it's every industry is affected. But specifically, I mean, for me personally, as well as an actor, I write, I do podcasts, I have other sort of income streams, and literally within 2 weeks it's all gone. I noticed even in January, some conventions, for example, had already started to not happen. So having a full, not a full, but a quite a good diary for 2020, it's all gone. Nothing, all gone. I'm a lucky one. I don't have a mortgage, and I have a pension pot that I could dip into if needs be. But if I was not to dip into my pension pot, then I'm thinking, well, how am I going to pay my bills?
Right.
Here, the government over here have been. I will defend them because they're dealing with an unknown thing that hasn't happened for really at this extent for over 100 years. But what they have finally introduced is some sort of fiscal package, so that everybody should have some sort of income. So those in the entertainment industry who have got a job that's sort of they are paid under a PAYE scheme, pay as you earn, the government is backing that by 80%.
Okay.
So every company is being offered 80% of their total salary fee.
Wow.
So that's good. That's good. But for the self-employed, there's very, very, very little. Something was mentioned last Friday, which was over here. I don't know what you call it in America, but over here, if you're not working, you get what they call universal credit as a benefit.
I think it's called unemployment here.
Yeah, but we now get universal credit, but we're told that self-employed people, or as I found is a new term, I'm part of the gig economy. I never heard that phrase until the coronavirus came along.
The geek economy?
Gig,
okay,
G-I-G.
Yeah. I would have.
So,
okay.
We are in tight. We can now, because normally we're not allowed to get any benefits at all if you're not working, because we're self-employed. So that's the risk you take. But we are being offered universal credit, but only up to the value of statutory sick pay, which works out over here in the UK as something like £90 a week. Mm-hmm. But you know, if some people, especially in the entertainment industry, there's a lot of people that literally live for the next paycheck.
Right.
And so how they're paying any bills at all, I don't know. We're being told that the finance sector should be helping. People with mortgages have been offered a 3-month holiday. Mm-hmm. But then it would turn, when you get then, the devil is in the detail. When you get out of it, all that happens is your mortgage agreement is just extended by 3 months. Mm-hmm. So it's so that's a and so in that sense, that's where people are scared, not just for the illness, but what's happening. In fact, the entire planet is going to go bankrupt. So that will be interesting. But I have to give it, our government has really put a massive fiscal package forward, and they're probably going to do something else as well, because it's cheaper for them to sort of pay us, inverted commas, than it is to have us put all on benefits. You know, and also the system wouldn't cope with what is it? It must be 30 million people in the UK that must be employed, if not more. Yeah. You know, so that's that. From my perspective, the only thing that's different now is that we've got this isolation, or as Tony calls it, we're under house arrest. But see, there are confusing rules that come out, but the more recent ones are pretty straightforward. Unless you absolutely have to, don't go out. Right? So if you're a nurse or a doctor, of course you're going to go to work. So don't go to work unless you absolutely have to. And the other thing is this standing 6 feet apart, or at least 6 feet.
I know.
And it's called something distancing.
Social distancing.
Social distancing.
Yeah.
Well, it is very clear that people don't know how long 6 feet is. And they're constantly... Now, what happened today? Last Friday, it was announced that people who are vulnerable, who've got underlying health issues, they will be written to, and it's about 1.5 million of them. And if they receive that letter, that means they have to stay indoors, isolated for at least 14 days. Mm-hmm. Right? And nobody's allowed to come and visit them. There will be special deliveries of food and things, which will be left on their doorstep.
That's cool.
Yeah. So there are systems set up. But then at the same time, they say that everybody else don't go out, but to soften that blow, people are allowed to go out for an hour and do a jog or a walk, as long as they don't talk to anybody. They're also allowed to go out to do basic shopping. If they've got a medical appointment, they're allowed to go out and do that. Otherwise, just stay indoors. Now, as it happens for me personally, if I'm not traveling the world, meeting wonderful fans and doing the conventions, if I'm not slapping my thigh on the stage, if I'm not filming, then I'm in my office where I am now. And so for me, nothing's changed.
You were mentioning about social distancing, and nobody knows that. I had to go to the bank, and unfortunately, our toilet had a leak, so I had to go to one of the home refurbishing places. I went to the bank, and there was a number 1 and a number 2, and they were like 10 feet apart. There was only 2 of us in the place. The woman was up there, and there was another woman whose basic job was to say, "Stand on the number 2," and she would not let me go until that woman moved away. And the place where I had to go get a part for the toilet, they literally had those paint strips. You know what I'm talking about, where they had like tape on the floor, separated. So you literally had to queue yourself and stay within those paint strips. So I was just like, but still, when I was walking around the store, I mean, like, people are coming up to me within 1 foot. I'm just like, get away from me. I felt like I was at a theme park. I was just like, get away. Don't need to be there.
The other very unusual thing, and to get used to, is that everywhere's been told to close down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we had money, and even if we were allowed out, there's nowhere to go. But of course, lots of people go out to the restaurant at least once a week.
Yes.
Right? Well, now they have to get food in. So there's more people wanting more food. So that's part of the sort of what could be seen as a sort of rush for emptying the supermarkets.
The food delivery services like Uber Foods and all that jumped 300%. So they've got.
But all the governments are having to deal with an unknown, invisible thing.
Yeah.
And over the years, and particularly in the entertainment industry, we are pioneers often.
Yeah.
You know, we get to do all sorts of projects that have never been done before, and part of that is having time to have a learning curve of what you're dealing with, and that's exactly what the situation is here with this virus. You know, there is an emphasis more recently that generally, and I don't know how accurate this is, it is mild. It's like a mild flu. It's just those with underlying issues, it can get them more. But there have been stories of quite fit people dying as well. Yeah. So that might have to be revised, unless this very fit person had an underlying issue that they weren't aware of. It's amazing how many sportsmen, for example, die suddenly within 2 or 3 years of retiring. And you think to yourself, they've spent 20 years or so being the fittest people on the planet.
Right.
And then suddenly they die at the age of 35 or 40. So nothing's straightforward.
I know.
I made a few notes. So now in the UK, our number of deaths went up to 422 today. So compared to other countries, we're doing very well.
Yeah.
So,
that's not something you want to acknowledge, but that's the reality of the situation.
The big thing, we were talking about testing, and it's still bizarre to me. I don't understand why doctors and nurses weren't tested almost immediately.
Well, because, can I answer it real quickly?
Yes.
Real quickly, because actually the antibodies don't start, viral shedding and antibody production don't really start happening until day 5. So if we test anyone any earlier than that, you're going to have a false negative. So we check, unfortunately, we have to wait. That's why we contain for that amount of time. And then
I understand that, but we're now in week 7. Oh, sorry.
I agree. You still have to have a positive exposure to be able to get the testing.
We're now in week 7, and the big cry is the doctors and nurses haven't yet been tested.
Oh,
where other people where other people have.
Right.
Yeah. So that's that. And
I can hazard.
There was a big thing about food deliveries to the superstores. And what it is in the diary, in the calendar, Christmas and Easter are there. So the stores can plan their deliveries well ahead. Whereas this situation, has come up suddenly. So that's what it is. I think that's my speech for today.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, everybody. And we've got like a few seconds. Neisha, if there's one tip you want to give to everybody out there about this virus, what would it be? You got like 10 seconds to tell them.
Advice for the
for our audience out there.
Your audience out there. I know that this has been difficult for everyone to carry, but please, if you can, make sure that you carry a hand sanitizer that has 60% alcohol. Make sure that you're washing, you're staying 6 feet of distance from anyone around you. If there's more than 6 to 10 people in a given environment, do not go to that environment. Make sure that if you're, for any reason, you have to cough or etc., you're coughing into the elbow. Dab. Basically, bring back the dab.
Yeah.
Do everything you can not to touch the face. The fingers to the face are going to be one of your biggest modes of transmission. Make sure that even in your home, my friends, just remember that this virus can sit and exist between remember, it spreads by respiratory droplet. You have 6 feet of area when you cough, sneeze, etc., where that you pass it to. Anywhere from 66 minutes to 5 hours is your biggest window. If you're in a space for that period of time and people around you are coughing, sneezing, or anything that you can think of that's risky, carry hand sanitizer, carry a disinfectant that's EPA or approved, and sanitize. I sanitize at the beginning of my workday, in the middle of my workday, and at the end of my workday. It's extremely important. But here's a big one. If you've been in an area with a set of people where you think you were at risk, use that disinfectant. Clean shoes, even clothes, your car, your steering wheel. Think wisely about what you're doing and where you could create cross contamination for yourself. Also, the number one person, and the last thing I'm going to say, Christian, is who is it that you reach out to is your family practice provider.
Right.
We are being trained every single day. When I said it was a fluid environment, I mean it's a fluid environment. We wake up and go to sleep and wake up and it's a whole different world.
And folks, just to let you know that this show, please do not take this as medical advice as far as treatment or anything like that. Please, if you have symptoms, go see your doctor. Go get tested, and if you do have symptoms, please stay at home, protect yourself. That's the end of the show there, folks. Again, thank you for all of us for joining us. Simon Fisher Becker, Mackenzie, Flohr, Neisha, Mulchan, and the lovely Melanie Dean. Folks, take care of yourself. Please continue to stay logged on, tune in, and always become part of the legend. And we definitely want you to take care of yourselves. Bye.